Iran would need to publicly accept the Geneva I communique in order to participate in the Geneva II conference. They don't decide on who to invite, the UN does.
Well,
we continue to strongly oppose any action taken by members of Congress, which we feel is unnecessary. And so the question is, why risk this important pivotal stage we're at by putting new legislation in? They've been doing personal outreach. The Secretary, Under Secretary Sherman, many officials in the administration have done countless briefings with the Hill as well. So that is.
The purpose of that sanctions regime, the purpose of responding to Iranian intransigence with these series of sanctions and this structure, was to try to change Iranian behavior so that Iran would come to the table and begin to talk seriously about how to get right with its international obligations. The sanctions regime that was put in place with the excellent assistance of Congress and our international partners has had that effect. It has brought Iran to the table and resulted in a change in the calculations of the Iranian leadership to the extent that they made agreement on the preliminary 6-month agreement, and that the sort of technical talks continue there as they move towards implementation, and then we will look at whether or not further negotiations can produce a concrete, permanent, verifiable resolution to this challenge that will allow us to be sure that Iran is not pursuing a nuclear weapon, and we can do that peacefully. That is the goal. That was the purpose of sanctions, and that's why we are where we are, and that's why we have, in our many discussions with members of Congress, urged them not to pass further sanctions legislation now, because it would be counterproductive. It would, I think, in many ways, have the opposite effect that they hope it would have, because it could, if they were to do it, actually weaken the sanctions structure that's in place by undermining faith among our international partners and providing Iran the opportunity to say that we have been negotiating in bad faith. So I think we all, at both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue, share the same goal, which is to deprive Iran of a nuclear weapon. That is the President's policy, and we have worked together towards that policy, and we want to continue to do that. And Congress has the capacity, should Iran fail to meet its obligations in either the interim or agreement or fail to come to an agreement with the international community, the P5+1, in the final analysis, to act very swiftly to impose further sanctions. And if they were to do that then, if it were necessary, they would again have, we believe, the kind of consensus internationally behind that action that would allow it to be enforced and to result in the consequences for Iran that they seek. So that's our view. We continue to consult with members of Congress, and I think we've been very clear that we oppose this legislation strongly.